Greetings and welcome to Yarnspirations.com. I'm Mary Beth Temple for Hooked for Life, and in this video we're going to take a look at the Sweet Knit Donut toy. This is an adorable little toy to play with. It's soft and squishy. It has little bullion stitch sprinkles on it. It has an adorable picot edge, and it has arms and legs knit in I-cord. So to make this pattern, you're going to need some Caron Simply Soft. We used color A in taupe for the donuts, and your frosting can be strawberry, which is what I have here, or robin's egg, or sunshine, which are shown in the photos, or frankly any color you want your frosting to be. And then you're going to need some of that off-white to make its little arms and legs. And we used just a tiny bit of black to embroider the face, and a tiny bit of Caron Simply Soft paints in Rainbow Bright to make the sprinkles. You're also going to need some stuffing. You will need US size 6 knitting needles. You will need either straight or circular for the body of the donut, but you're also going to need DPNs so you can make the I-cord arms and legs. You're going to need 2 1/4 inch or 6mm safety eyes per toy, and you might want a stitch marker. And you're also going to need a tapestry needle to do the bullion stitch. So even though these are round toys, they are knit flat back and forth. The construction's a little unusual, but it's really simple to knit once you get your brain wrapped around how it's going to work. So let's get right to it and cast on our donuts. Okay, let's take a look at the construction, because while the construction is very clever and makes the toy easy to make, it's a little unusual. It's not the way we've constructed some other things, so I want to go over it before we get too far along. Now, if you look at this little guy right here in the photo, you'll see that we're using the taupe in the back and then one of the fashion colors on the front. You'll also notice the back is just a little bit bigger than the front, and that gives the toy the depth. But we're actually casting on with the taupe, so we're casting on the back, and reverse stocking stitch is going to be the part that shows. And even though I'm using a circular needle because I always use a circular needle, you need to know that even though this is a round piece, we're knitting it flat, but the cast on edge is the widest part, so it's around the circle. So the first thing you're going to do is cast on 58 stitches. First row is a purl row, which is the right side, and the second and alternate rows on this half of the piece are knit, so I've already done that. So moving on to the third row, we're going to purl 2, make 1 purlwise, purl 7, repeat from asterisk to end of row, and we will have 66 stitches instead of the 58 that we started with. So in this one case on this side, we have an increase. So to make 1 purlwise, make 1 stitch by picking up horizontal loop line before the next stitch and purling into the back of loop. So let's take a look at how that goes. So we're doing the third row, we're knitting the third row. Let's see if I can get in the right place here. So the first thing I'm going to do is purl 2, 1, 2, then I'm going to M1P, make 1 purlwise. So I'm picking up the horizontal bar before the next stitch. I'm putting it on the left-hand needle. Again, that's for right-handed people. You would go the other direction if you're left-handed. And I'm going to purl through the back loop. And I'm purling through the back loop to give it a little twist at the bottom so we don't have a big gap. Purl 7. We're going to do that again so you can take a closer look. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, make 1 purlwise. Bring that horizontal bar up onto the left-hand needle and purl through back loop. It's a little tight, but it should be because you want it to be the gauge of everything else when the stitch comes down. So I'm working, you can see I'm working very close to the pointy part, and that is to make sure that I have enough room to get both needle tips in there. There's my purl through back loop. Now I'm going to purl 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then it would be time for another one. So let's take a very close look See, there's my stitches that came up on the make one. There's one. There's the other one. So you can see they work right into the fabric. They're not real obvious, and it's just a really nice way to do them when reverse stocking stitch is your face fabric. So we're going to go ahead, finish the third row, and then 4, 5, 6, and 7 are work even in reverse stocking. So purling on the right side, knitting on the wrong side. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to catch up with you. Oh, and 8 is also a work even row. I'm going to catch up you on the 9th row, which is when we begin the decreases. Okay, looking at the 9th row, we're going to purl 1, purl 2 together, purl 6, repeat from asterisk to last stitch, purl 1. So we are going to take a look at the purl 2 together on camera, but I want to go over the rest of the pattern real quick so we can move on. So that's the 9th row. We go down to 58 stitches. 11th row, purl 1, purl 2 together, purl 5, etc., down to 50, down to 42. So you notice you have purl 2 together with 6 between, then a purl 2 together with 5 between, then a purl 2 together with 4, with 3, with 2, with 1, and then you're going to do your final knit row on the wrong side, which is knit row, and at that point we're going to break off the A color. So all we're doing now is decreasing. And like I said, this is going to be a wonky looking shape, but I'm making this video so you know you are doing the right thing. So 9th row, once again, purl 1, purl 2 together. All I need to do to make a purl 2 together is insert the right hand needle tip if you're right-handed, left if you're left-handed, through both at the same time, and purl them together as one. So that's going to make my decrease. So purl 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, purl 2 together. And once again, if it's too tight back here and you can't get your right hand needle tip, push them up towards the front. It just gives you a little bit more room. Right, and our wrong side rows are knit rows. So I'm going to go ahead and keep going with these decrease rows, and when I come back at the end of the 20th row, there will only be 18 stitches remaining. Just a quick little visual here. This is the end of the 13th row, and you can see that the work is starting to contract. We have far fewer stitches than we did when we began, and the edges are starting to pull in, and I wanted to let you know that that is just fine and exactly what's supposed to be happening. So once again, I'll see you at the end of the 20th row. So here I am at the end of the 20th row. You can see it's getting a little roughly down here, and I'm down to 18 stitches. Now here is the right side of the work, and here is the wrong side of the work. You can see all those decreases, and while it doesn't look much on this part of the needle, since I'm working on a circular, I'm just going to twist it up for you. You can see what it's going to eventually do. So there's my center of my donut hole, and then these guys are going to join. So you can see I've got my donut shape, which is round, even though I have knit flat. And I broke the yarn at the end of the 20th row as instructed. So now with B, which is, in my case, I'm using the strawberry, but you can use whatever color you're using. First row knit, second and third rows knit, fourth row purl. So I'm working even. So I'm going to go knit, 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 purl in the new color, and then I'm going to come back for the 5th row, and we're going to talk about that make one increase, which is on a knit side, so it's different than a make one purlwise, which is the one we've already done. So I'm on the 5th row. We're on page 2. Knit 1, make 1, knit 2, repeat from asterisk, so that's make 1, knit 2 to last stitch, knit 1, and that will give us 26 stitches, so we're increasing now. So this is what it looks like after I have finished those work even colors. Now remember I said when the toy is assembled on the taupe color or the back of the donut, the reverse stocking is the right side of the work. But on the frosting colored side, the stocking stitch is the right side of the work. So that garter stitch just gave us a little turning ridge for when we sew all our pieces together. So that's how that's going to look. So let's take a look at those increases. So it's knit 1, make 1. So we're going into that same horizontal bar that we had before, and we're placing it on the left-hand needle if you're right-handed, the other way around if you're left-handed. But this time we're going to knit in the back of the work. All right, so knit 2, make 1. Once again, if you need to push it up to the tip to get more space to get your needle in, that's okay. 1, 2, make 1. We're going to do that all the way across. We'll have that extra knit stitch at the end. This is what they look like. So you can see by working in the back is where you get that little twist. If you don't do the work back and get that little twist, that tends to make a little too big of a hole, particularly for stuffed toys, because you don't want the stuffing to come out. So we're going to keep working in that direction. So there's make 1, knit 2, and then the alternate rows are purl, whereas on the first half the alternate rows were knit. So we're purling, then make 1, knit 3, make 1, knit 4, make 1, knit 5, make 1, knit 6, and we're going to be all the way back to 58 stitches. Then we're going to knit the 15th row, and then I want to take a look at the Picot Cast-Off that we're using. There's a couple of different ways to make a Picot Cast-Off, but I want to talk about the one specifically that we're using in this pattern. So here we are at the end of row 16. I did all my increases, which ended on the 13th row. 14 was a purl row. The 15th row said knit, and 16 was a purl row. So now I'm to the point where it says Picot Cast-Off. Knit 1, cast on 3 stitches, cast off 6 stitches. So let's just take a look. Here's our shape. Again, it looks a little wild and crazy right now, but here is the right side of the back of the work in reverse stocking. Here's the right side of the frosting side of the work in stocking. There's my ridge. That's going to be my center. And when I sew them all up, it's going to be donut shaped. So let's take a look at that Picot Cast-Off. We're going to knit 1, cast on 3 stitches. Again, I'm going to use the knitted cast on, because I think that is easiest for this application. So that was 1, 2, 3. So then I'm going to cast off 6. So I've already got that knitted. So I'm going to knit 1 here, pass the first one over the second one. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. See my little bump here? That's what we're after. It's going to give us that decorative edge around the outside of the donut. So let's take a look at that one more time. Once again, using a knitted cast on, because I personally think this works best, but whatever cast on makes you happy will do the job. That was 1, 2, 3. We're going to cast off 6. Whoop, I had a little split there. Let's do that again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right. So what I'm going to get is these little ridges evenly spaced all the way around. And then when I get to the very end, I'm going to cast off the last stitch. So let's talk for a second about finishing. I'm just going to put this working stitch on the other needle so I can move the fabric around, show you what I'm talking about. So cast on and cast off edges together, leaving picot edge free. So I'm going to take this guy and I'm going to stitch it to this guy, but I'm going to leave that picot edge unstitched, so it's just out there being adorable edging. After that, I'm going to put on my safety eyes, and then I'm going to stuff it, and then I'm going to sew the open ends together. So once this is all stuffed, I'm going to sew the two edges of the frosting color together and the two edges of the donut color together. So once again, let me just stick this on the cable. There we go. So once again, here's our donut. After that, I'm going to embroider the mouth with black yarn. And with color D, which is my multicolor, I'm going to embroider sprinkles using the bullion stitch. Use a one color section of those paint colors for every bullion stitch, and we have a separate video for you of how to do the bullion stitch. Then we're going to move on to the legs. The legs are knit with 2 strands as a note, and you're going to do this on double pointed needles. So basically you're making I-cords, and guess what? We have an I-cord video for you too. So check out the video on simple I-cord to make the I-cord, and continuing on those double pointed needles, you're going to make the little hands in the same color, and you're going to make the feet so that they look like shoes in the same color as the frosting. When all of that is finished, all you need to do is sew the arms and the legs to the donut as seen in the picture. So I hope you had a wonderful time joining us on the Sweet Knit Donut toy. I'm Mary Beth Temple for Hooked for Life. Be sure to subscribe to this channel for fresh content on knitting, crocheting, and other yarny crafts every week. And we look forward to seeing you again here on Yarnspirations.com real soon. Bye-bye.